has been going on for decades now.
Yeah, Ben and I aren't really for any specific party or person, but you guys know we're very much against all of this dark stuff, including Satanism, communism, the cabal, but we do support when people are also against that.
A lot of people have been making fun of the MAGA slogan, and they say, when was America ever great? But we realized that America was great when the deep state wasn't in control of it. So we just understand this as meaning take control back from them and give it to the people. So we believe Trump for sure knows about these people.
Yeah, we just want to play a role in helping people come together because, well, in the words of Hillary Clinton, we're stronger together. Just not with her in the picture, since her meaning is about globalization and not for the people. And Ben, why'd you make us put a Hillary quote in the script?
Well, because the real reason is that they actually want to divide us. Right, because really there's a double meaning to what she's saying. It's like, we come together, but we exclude all of you, and then it's like we're turning against us against you, and it's like, so the whole dividing thing is happening, and which is exactly what they want to do to us. So it's like, we're stronger together, but we're going to go against you, the ones that aren't for us.
Like the sheeps.
Exactly.
Gotcha. So the deep state donkers knew this too, so they quietly began their World War III, which was started in the 50s actually, which no one really knew about, and it was against really every citizen in the US, and then it went out globally.
Now, many of you may have heard of William or Bill Cooper, who wrote Behold a Pale Horse. We have mentioned him a few times in our videos. In fact, I even heard about his book in like the 90s when I was really young.
Give a brief background. He was a former United States Naval Intelligence briefing team member who saw many things in the service, such as UFOs, the secret shadow government, the truth about JFK, the war on drugs, how Satanism is ruling the government, etc., etc.
So in 1988, Bill decided to come out and started talking about what he knew. He predicted the fall of Berlin Wall, the invasion of Panama, and 9/11, which we'll talk a little bit more about. He wasn't psychic. I mean, this was because he had all the inside information and was really good at putting the pieces together.
Yeah, so now in June of 2001, right before the 9/11 attacks, Cooper talks a lot about bin Laden, asking questions like, why is it that the US military satellites, undercover agents, and the entire CIA can't find him? Yet, a CNN crew team was able to secretly go to his hideout and actually interview him. I mean, does this reek yet? This smells to me.
So Cooper goes on to say that if bin Laden is planning to attack Israel and the US soon, but that if the Mossad, which is basically kind of like the CIA of Israel, can't find him, then this is the biggest joke ever. Then Cooper went on to say that the people need to be prepared for a major attack.
So now bin Laden at this point already made a threat, but Cooper says it won't be bin Laden that will do this attack, but it will be, using his own words, the New World Order, who want to take freedom and guns away from the people.
So after 9/11, Cooper started to go on radio shows and events to tell people about who was really behind these attacks. On November 5th, 2001, Bill was killed in a shootout with local police who came to arrest him over tax evasion.
He wasn't a cartel drug lord living on a giant estate, and you can imagine after his death, people started to believe even more in what he's been saying because of how all of this ended.
Mm-hmm. However, some people in sites like Wikipedia, thought he was just being paranoid since he believed that he was being targeted by Bill Clinton and the IRS. But considering what is in his book, and even if only 20% of it is real, I mean, man, this is enough to cause a massive ripple in society, which it did.
So Bill is now actually considered a martyr to, and I hate to use this term, but to conspiracy theorists. And now after all of this starting to come to light with QAnon, the deep state, Satanism, etc., it looks like he was right from the beginning.
Now, to back up the claim he wasn't a paranoid conspiracy lunatic, something really big came out recently while we were researching all this that we couldn't even believe, because we were preparing to do this episode on talk about bin Laden. Thomas Paine, whose real name is Mike Moore.
Not Michael Moore, as in, like, you know, the guy who makes all of those wonky documentaries. His name's Mike Moore.
And is the publisher of True Pundit, dropped a nuclear bomb on his site and spoke with your voice Ann Vandersteel about it.
He said that what he found was so shocking that he had to call the White House to warn them that he was about to go public with this information. So in 2008, the FBI invaded Payne's home with guns drawn and threatened his entire family, even his children. I mean, the FBI pointed guns at their heads. They told him to stop what he was doing and that the consequences would be dire if he didn't.
However, instead of stopping, it only made him look more into the FBI and was the motivation to kind of create his website. He has been one of the main people talking about how the FBI is corrupt from the top and that they are not protecting but threatening people who do have information.
And so to back up to this nuclear bomb, while he began to wonder what caused the FBI to raid his home and threaten him, he started to think back on what he was working on then and realized that he was digging into and asking questions about Osama bin Laden, his whereabouts, and the rumors that he's heard about him not being in Afghanistan but secretly being hid in Iran.
He said that the Saudis, along with the Iranian government and our own CIA, were not looking for him but protecting him. While our soldiers were dying in Iraq and Afghanistan looking for bin Laden, really, they were just hunting a ghost whose whereabouts were known for years.
And domestically, anyone who was looking for him, the CIA would silence them for it. Now, there's so much more to this. In the mid-2000s, a hotline from the Rewards for Justice program was set up and put out a $25 million reward for his whereabouts or capture. But this was under the State Department, and guess who was in charge of the State Department at that time? None other than
Hillary Clinton. Now, Payne goes on to say that whenever a tip did come in about bin Laden being in Iran, the CIA would send a crew over to do surveillance, wiretapping. They would follow up with whoever they were talking to and follow those people as well. They were keeping a lid on all of this, and this hotline was actually just a bait for people.
Now, we know that during the Obama administration, Obama gave close to about $1.8 billion to Iran for the nuclear deal. And then there's the controversial $150 billion in freed up assets like sanctioned oil and whatnot. However, Payne is saying this was, quote, a ransom for Iran to keep quiet about bin Laden's stealth living arrangements and the U.S.'s involvement in allowing his terror network to operate from Iran, unquote. So in the article, he doesn't provide evidence, but he said with Ann Vandersteel that his book has the documents from the former head of the CIA, John Brennan, speaking with the Saudi leaders at the time, that he knew bin Laden was in Iran and the money was about protecting bin Laden.
But we'll have to all read the research in his book to get the information. He also said that when former military and government officials went to the CIA at the time with info on bin Laden's whereabouts, instead of being offered a medal and a huge thank you, they were instead met with threats and warnings about being arrested if they spoke about it.
Right, so who is the CIA really protecting here? But we'd recommend watching the video. The part where he talks about this is around the 30-minute mark. But he also said that bin Laden's son is still running al-Qaeda, and since Saudi Arabia has been reformed, the new leadership is saying that al-Qaeda is being led by his son, who is operating out of Iran.
So in a way, all of this starts to check out big time. But this is a huge issue, and it seems that all of this is still under the orders of the cabal. So we want to talk about something far more nefarious here. But first, we need to go into what is the Bilderberg Group.
Now, the first chapter of Cooper's book is titled The Illuminati's Declaration of War Upon the People of America. And in it is a document that is titled Top Secret, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. Cooper explains that he read this top secret document, which had this title and was a doctrine adopted by the policy committee of the Bilderberg Group during the first known meeting in 1954.
So some of you guys are probably very familiar with the Bilderberg Group, and some might not be. For the people who aren't, the Bilderberg Group is a group of very high-level officials, business leaders, royalty, prime ministers, presidents, etc., who meet once a year in a different location and is completely closed doors.
Yeah, sound familiar? So in a nutshell, we think this is more or less the Committee of 300. You can pretty much tell by matching the names with who we know is in the 300 and who goes to the Bilderberg meetings. There's a website we found called Public Intelligence that has a list of every person who attended the meetings from its inception in 1954 to 2018. And the Bilderberg now has a website that goes into topics they discuss in these meetings. Now in 2017, when the Bilderberg group met, one of the topics was the Trump administration, a progress report. However, Trump didn't attend this meeting or the one in 2018, and as far as we can tell, he's never even attended one.
But get this, in 2015, one of the topics was globalization and US elections, and this was on their official website. And again, you start seeing names like David Rockefeller, Eric Schmidt from Google, bank CEOs, huge corporations like Coca-Cola, Nestle, the Clintons, The Economist, Wall Street Journal. You see where this is going? Look familiar?
WikiLeaks has a couple of reports from these meetings published, and we did go through those, but there wasn't anything shocking aside from wanting a stronger union among the countries. However, what's kind of interesting is that their first meeting was in 1954, which was the same year the KGB came into existence.
It has been reported from Lou Rockwell that a leaked audio file from David Rockefeller, which was during a 1991 meeting and had people such as Bill Clinton, Henry Kissinger, chairmen of Washington Post, Wall Street Journal are all there, according to the Public Intelligence site.
The quote was, quote, "We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subject to the bright lights of publicity during those years."
But there is a video going around that isn't actually of David Rockefeller. It just says audio simulation. So the recording is fake. And places like Snopes and Wikipedia are, of course, like discrediting it as the source of this quote. But, I mean, we can definitely say this group is real. And look just who was there. I mean, we already know, like, Washington Post and all these, like, New York Times people, representatives, were actually there at these meetings. So, and they're there, but they're not reporting on it. So that's kind of obvious. Like,
ridiculous.
But anyway, okay, but we can say that this group is real. It is very secretive, and when we get into the Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars doc, it does make sense.
So later in his book, Bill Cooper actually states that experimental hepatitis B vaccine trials were given out at Centers for Disease Control in New York, San Francisco, and a few other cities, but this wasn't a vaccine. It was actually the AIDS virus, which targeted specifically the homosexual population. That is crazy.
Now, Cooper says this order was given by the policy committee of the Bilderberg Group directly from Switzerland in 1978, 1 year before the date of the document he published, Silent Weapons for Quiet War.
Now, at this point, if people don't believe that the deep state is real, then we really don't know what to tell you, other than the fact that you probably need to research all of this for yourself, really outside of CNN and New York Times, and of course, Wikipedia.
Yeah, so I actually knew two people who worked at CNN, and they said it was just the biggest joke on TV. But anyway, in his first chapter, Cooper publishes a complete document that is dated May 1979, which was found on July 7th, 1986, when an employee of a Boeing aircraft purchased a surplus IBM copier for scrap parts at a sale. He discovered the documents inside.
Great plan, guys. Stuff it in a copier. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, how can we trust this then, right? I mean, well, he said that he read a very similar document, which was found in 1969, that the Navy intelligence was actually in possession of. Them being so similar, he figured that this was actually legit. Bill was so sure of this that he published it as the first chapter of his book. It is just this document, which out of all the research we are doing is probably the one that spells out the cabal's plan in the shortest way and with the greatest detail.
The famous or infamous quote, depending on how you look at it, from the first reported Rothschilds in the 1700s, Meyer Amschel Rothschild, came from this document, which says, "Give me control over a nation's currency, and I care not who makes its laws."
So in a nutshell, it spells out how they wanted to create their new world order and the methods they used to control the general population, keeping the lower class poor, keeping the middle class in debt, putting us in a constant state of war with one another, and many, many other things.
So we tried to squeeze all of this in one episode, but when the news about Osama came out, we realized that this is important because it adds so much more credibility to Bill Cooper's account. Also, Q reposted a photo of his book that someone uploaded to 8chan.
The U.S. population is currently around 300 million. The national debt is currently around 10 trillion. So the current debt, when divvied among the American people, comes out to approximately $33,000 and has been growing.